At last. It's the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Unfiltered. So we all know that on the night of the crime at 1122 King Road, there were a lot of things going on around that house. But I found something very interesting, and that's an article, because you see, it wasn't only what was going on inside the house or outside the house, but in the surrounding areas. So I thought I would share this article with you because I have a theory as to this article, but it's just very strange. So I'm going to read the article to you and then we'll discuss. In November 2022, Pullman police promptly responded to a very serious hit-and-run incident involving Carmen Fernandez, resulting in multiple charges including DUI, felony vehicular assault, and hit-and-run, followed by legal proceedings and sentencing. On the evening of November the 12th, 2022, Pullman police were called to a crash site at the Grove Apartments on Brandyway around 11:30 p.m., where two Washington State University students were struck by a vehicle driven by 19-year-old Carmen Fernandez. The vehicle also hit a fire hydrant, causing a waterline rupture. After the collision, Fernandez left the scene and was later located at a party on Greek Row, where police arrested her. The investigation was supported by the Washington State University Police Department and the Whitman County Sheriff's Office.
Screaming. 6-3, you got two patients laying on the ground. What response do you have? Medics coming. Pullman 481, we've got a damaged fire hydrant. We're going to need somebody to come out from water to try to seal it off.
So we had a caller call in and report that a vehicle struck two pedestrians, almost hit a third, struck a fire hydrant, and then left the scene. We had officers and obviously the ambulance respond to the scene, discovered two people that had been struck by what we determined later to be a large dark-colored SUV. Those people were both transported to the hospital. I believe they should recover from their injuries. A third person jumped out of the way, or they would have been struck as well.
You might be asking, what does this have to do with Bryan Kohberger at all? Well, it's just another crime. The thing is that Bryan Kohberger's apartment was right next to this very active crime scene. And the thing is, there were several squad cars at this time. I mean, this whole scene was active until 5:30 a.m. the next morning. Remember that Carmen Fernandez actually hit two pedestrians and a fire hydrant. So you can imagine the chaos and this whole big scene with ambulances, victims being taken to the hospital. And of course, you can see that there are a lot of people walking around. It was extremely chaotic. There were a lot of witnesses on that scene. And this was obviously because Carmen had driven off.
I located the vehicle on California Street near Monroe, State Washington. It's unoccupied. I've got the substantial damage, particularly front right, missing grille, as well as yellow paint transfer from the hydrant.
They were trying to identify her car. Now, you have to imagine Bryan Kohberger leaving this active crime scene with all this chaos and going to a different crime scene where it's crawling with students, and these students were having parties and all of that. I mean, people were walking around, and we do know that the students were still awake. So you're telling me that he took every precaution, leaving a home to go to another home where he could potentially be seen by all these witnesses, and he left a victim who remained in the home and didn't call for help for 8 hours while her roommates bled out. So Kohberger leaves the scene where he's just unalived 4 university students, and law enforcement suggests that this was just some kind of random attack, that he left no evidence other than that speck of trace DNA on the sheet. Now, to me, this points to a high level of planning. He would have had to have left his apartment while there's an active crime scene happening right in front of it. This place is crawling with cops, EMTs, paramedics, and the repair crew that was working on that burst water pipe from the fire hydrant that was hit. Now, if he truly planned this, how would he ever know what was happening at 1122 King Road? Most people, especially somebody like Bryan Kohberger, would be freaking out by the scene outside his apartment. I mean, his mind would be racing. So to go over there to 1122 King Road, not knowing who's awake, not knowing if the police are over there searching for this runaway driver, seems completely crazy. Now, some people have said that he wore some kind of suit, which explains why there was no evidence found in his vehicle. But I just don't see how he could have left his apartment in this way. If you think about it, he would have had to have lined his car with plastic. He would have had to have taken extreme measures to avoid leaving any trace. But we expected to believe that he left this apartment, drives right past a very active, very busy crime scene, and he's got a full kit in there. I mean, a mask, a coverall, a weapon, possibly items that he would use to clean up. I mean, he would have to have nerves of steel, really ballsy to pull something like that off. So I do have a theory, and it's just a theory. What if Bryan Kohberger, who was in his apartment, now remember, he's known to be up late at night. We know that he had a bit of a relationship with the Pullman police department, and that is because he did an interview with them. It's very widely known that Bryan wanted to become a police officer. So let's say he comes out of his apartment late that night, he's studying for his PhD, and he hears all this commotion. And it's likely maybe that he offers to assist to search for the hit and run vehicle. And I say that because of his autism, it would be very natural for someone like Bryan to want to be of help. So law enforcement says yes. And remember, the suspect has now driven off after this hit and run, and they don't know where the vehicle is. So it's very possible that Bryan decides to drive, and maybe he takes a few back roads to see if he can locate this vehicle. And I can already hear a lot of people saying yes, but the thing is, his phone was turned off. But remember, Ben Levitan said that it could have meant that he was not receiving any texts or calls. So maybe he just casually put his phone next to him and he went about driving, searching for this damaged vehicle. And this was his attempt to assist the police department. But then at 4:48 a.m. his phone pings at near Blaine. And I find this very strange because this is more or less the time that the Moscow police located Carmen Fernandez's vehicle in Greek Row, where she was arrested. So to me, that would explain Bryan turning back to go to his apartment, and he arrived there at 5:27 or 5:28 a.m., which is exactly the same time that this whole crime scene was being wrapped up. Now, to me, this fits with how someone like Bryan Kohberger might think. I mean, he's somebody who we know to be very obsessed with procedure, structure, and authority. I think he's also insecure about being accepted by that system. So if you think that he was really out that night and stumbled onto some kind of activity where there was law enforcement and maybe even offering to help, maybe like a wannabe cop, well, the thing is, he wouldn't be authorized to do that, and it could easily be misunderstood. By him saying that he was helping the police search for someone would immediately raise huge red flags, and there was no official record of it. And that's why I say even if he did maybe have good intentions from this theory that I have, they'd have every reason to leave that part out of his alibi and just say that he was driving around. I mean, it's a cleaner, safer version of the truth. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I don't want to go down a conspiracy rabbit hole with it, but I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, the fact that there were two very active crime scenes on that night, and he happened to come back to his apartment at the very same time that law enforcement was wrapping up that scene, just seems weird. Also, take my theory out of it and picture him walking past all of these officers, going out to commit a quadruple homicide with the mask, the weapon, risking his car being identified. And it just, again, is something else that doesn't sit right in this whole case with me. But I would love to hear your thoughts, so please drop a comment. If you like the video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.